Is the 19th of February, and as improbable as it sounds, we are talking about our midterm exam next week. This semester's been pretty early due to an early start date, and as AJ points out, no 3-day weekends from then until now. So we're going to have our spring break is the first week in March, meaning that next week, the last week in February, is our midterm week. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what the midterm is going to look like and how you can prepare for it. So the first thing is, right now in class, we have submitted the first 3 chapters of homework. Chapter 3 was due yesterday, and I just checked my roster, and only one person is not submitted, so we're good to go. You two have both submitted, so excellent. And then chapter 4 is actually due March 1st, which is next Friday. So in other words, next week is midterm, and homework number 4 is due at midterm as well. So you really need to complete this before you take the exam, or at least have a good start on it, but you don't have to officially submit it until Friday. Then over spring break, I'll get caught up and get your midterm grades to you so that you know how you're doing. Chapter 4, which is about the first law of thermodynamics, or the conservation of energy principle, put into work for closed systems being those that do not have mass crossing the boundary. So you're only talking about energy, usually in the form of heat or work, but occasionally electrical energy or something else, put into a system or taken out of a system, but no mass. So I have 2 lectures, lecture number 9 and lecture number 10. Lecture number 10 is very long, but it's also pretty important, so it will get you ready for that chapter 4 stuff on the midterm, and also for the homework. So our complete list of homework assignments is here, and then below that on our Moodle page is the review problems for the final, or for the midterm exam. Now the way I structure the midterm exam, I'll give you 2 hours to take the exam, and this is in the interest of fairness. 2 hours is usually ample time, but I want everybody, whether they're taking this at a distance or taking it in the classroom, to have the same fair deal. So that's why I limit you to 2 hours. I'm not really committed to 2 hours, but if I have somebody who's being proctored out in Cyberland, I tell their proctor that they get 2 hours, so then we all get the same deal, because I want to be fair. Most people do not require 2 hours to take the exam. There are 4 problems on the exam, and I've given you on this page an example problem for each. And if you work, some of these were on your homework, some of these are not. But chapter 1 will be a manometer problem. Chapter 2 will be an energy calculation. Chapter 3 we'll be using the property tables, and you may have to find a steam quality in that sort of a problem. And then chapter 4 is a first law of thermodynamics. The example that I would like you to do is problem 4-114, and it's a piston cylinder arrangement with no stops. In other words, the piston is unrestrained. Now, the reason that I do that is that's a really classical type of a thermodynamic problem with boundary work. So that's a great example, and there will be some homework that will get you to that point as well. So anyway, the piston with no stops, the piston is unrestrained. When you see what that is, you'll see that it's sort of a culmination of most of the ideas that we've been working with in thermo to this point. Now, when you get ready for your your midterm, I keep saying final. Gosh, I'm 2 months ahead of myself. Apologize. When you're looking at this material for the midterm exam, first of all, if you work these 4 problems, they will prepare you for the midterm exam. In other words, these are really good examples that will help you. They're not random problems. So the reason I've chosen them is because they'll be very similar to the problems that will be on your exam. They will not be identical. Yes?
So just 4 questions on the exam.
4 questions on the exam. The other thing about getting ready for the exam, you can bring in I always refer to it as a study sheet, or sometimes people refer to this as a formula sheet or a crib sheet. But basically, you can bring in a standard size piece of paper, engineering paper or white paper, whatever you like, but that size, and you can write on it anything that you like. But it has to be in your own handwriting. You can't photocopy things, and if your sister or your brother or your significant other has better handwriting than you, it can't be in their handwriting. It has to be your handwriting. When you are done with the midterm exam, you'll turn in your formula sheet with it. I'll give it back to you, but I just want to see what you've written down. And then I scan everything, and I keep this stuff for years. So if there's ever any problems, you can always come back and take a look and see what it is that you need. Now, I don't let you take the exams home with you either, so you can't photocopy them or remove anything that indicates from the exam what was on the exam. So, like, I know a lot of students, and I don't consider this cheating, I'm just saying it's a rule that I have, but a lot of students will say, oh, problem number 3 was really hard, I'm going to write this down and I'm going to work it out at home because I want to go through it myself. It's not okay. So we'll do that in class. I'll go over the problems in class. Now that presents a problem for the distance students because I don't like to post it online, but distance students can call me and we can make an appointment and do a Zoom conference if they want to do that. So we'll do it in a non-recorded fashion. But if you can do these 4 problems, you'll be set. And like I said, I've had students ask and the answer's fine, yes. If you work out these 4 problems and that's your study sheet, is that okay? The answer's sure, absolutely, as long as it's in your own handwriting. And once again, you can write front and back, you can write as small as is legible for you, and we're good to go. During the exam, you'll also have access to the tables, so you don't have to remember like R values or steam quality, of course. I mean, you'll have to know what steam quality is, but you don't have to memorize like you don't have to memorize anything out of the tables or units or anything like that. You have to be able to use the tables efficiently. You don't have access to the internet. You don't have access. The only calculators that you can use are calculators that are acceptable on the Fundamentals of Engineering exam. And what that means is basically that they are not able to access the internet, not internet capable. So let me see if I can find this. Fundamentals. You have to spell Fundamentals of Engineering exam calculator list. Okay, so no, that says California calculators. There we go. So the National Council of Engineering Examiners allows you to have the types of calculators that are acceptable. Casio, Hewlett-Packard's, Texas Instruments. There are other, as you see, the following calculators are the only ones that are acceptable during the 2018-2019 exams. Now, for those of you that are not familiar with the Fundamentals of Engineering exam or the FE exam, this is the first step in the testing process to become a professional engineer. Not everybody takes this. You don't have to pass it in order to graduate with a degree in engineering or to go to work as an engineer. But if you're beginning the process to become a PE, this is the first step. So I think it's a really good idea to work with a calculator that you can use on this exam because this is a big old high stakes exam for us, and it's a good deal.
So
to
no
do that.
TI-84.
I think
It doesn't say it on there.
Right. Yeah, they like you to have the 30X or the 36X.
I've got.
If you've got an 84, it's not. Can you access the internet with it? You
no,
cannot.
But I've also got this 30XS.
That's the one that they would love you to use. And I would just suggest, if you have an 84 and you love your 84, it's fine. I mean, I'm going to let you do it. But if you need to buy a new calculator, think about staying to this list because, first of all, you don't want to go into that exam with a brand new calculator, right? You want to be like really, really good and conversant with your calculator before you do. So this is just a recommendation, but you don't have to run out and buy a new calculator.
I've been thinking those,
Yeah.
the TI-36s, they're only about $20, $30.
Yes.
So I was thinking about buying one. It's a lot like this one.
It is.
I like this one because it's not battery operated.
No, you
But
can't run out of batteries.
It doesn't, it rounds a lot more than my 84 does.
I understand.
And I'm a
You like them decimals?
pretty picky
Yes,
about-
very good.
exact numbers.
I love it.
But anyway, so that's why I was asking. So it's
Yeah.
not a big deal. I can
Yeah.
use either really.
Okay, I would just recommend that, and especially in the future if you end up buying a calculator. And this list changes, like this list for this year is quite a bit more limited than it's been in the past. So that indicates to me that they found ways to be naughty with calculators that the council is trying to prevent. So these are like the safe calculators. But the big thing, as far as I'm concerned, is just no internet access. The other thing is that during our exam, I really don't want you to use your cell phone or have access to your cell phone. And once again, I'm not really like a stickler for, I don't really think my students, I think two things. I don't really feel like my students are going to cheat. I feel like most of us are fairly honorable. I also feel like in the past, I have felt like engineering is so competitive that you're really not going to let someone cheat off of you, or another engineer is not going to let you cheat off of them, at least over an extended period of time. But, and I may have mentioned this too, I also feel like people your age are much nicer to each other than people my age are or were. So, congratulations, first of all. But it can lead to some awkward situations, you know? Like somebody asked you for stuff back when I was in school, it was more like, what are you going to do for me? And the answer is no. That's, you know, and you know, but I mean, I think everybody now is just a lot kinder to each other, which is really good, but it also makes people feel awkward about some issues that we need to not feel awkward about. So, but I like you to not have your cell phone, and I will have my cell phone, because if there is a security threat of any sort, we need to have access to that information right away. Now, once again, if you're a paramedic, or if, you know, if you were, I've had in the past young married men whose wives were going into labor, it's like, yeah, I want you to have your cell phone, absolutely. I mean, these are important things. If you're a paramedic, if you're a fireman, if you have a valid reason, just let me know, you know. But just, if all else being equal, let's not have our cell phones with us, okay? And I will have mine, so that we won't be the last to know what's going on if there's any issues, okay? So I think that's about it, except for getting ready by beginning chapter 4. So at this point, do you guys, okay, then we need to talk about a time. If you would like, I'm going to pull up my calendar here, we can have our exam during our regular class time on either Tuesday or Thursday. Now, Tuesday seems rushy to me for you guys, but right, yeah, I know.
I would.
Or we can do it Friday of next week, March 1st.
Honestly, though,
Yes.
I'd probably rather do Tuesday.
Okay, all right.
I have a lab Thursday mornings.
Okay.
And sometimes it runs a little long, and I don't even make it to this lecture.
Absolutely.
So I don't. It's up to AJ.
Yeah, I can do Tuesday.
Okay.
Tuesday? Sweet. All right. Let me put it on my calendar. Then I'll ask you one other question. Let's get our Tuesday set up. Here's the 26th. Okay. I am free at 10 that morning, so for your 2-hour block, do you want to start early or do you want to go late, or some combination?
I can start at 10.
How about you, AJ?
Yeah, I can start whenever because this is my only class for the day, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Really, it's my only class, but I tutor in the afternoon, but now I tutor in the morning.
10 through noon. Okay, so if this changes, it's fine.
And that's the 26th.
It is. So if you guys need to alter this, I mean, I've got it on my calendar, absolutely, and I'm prepared for that. But if you guys need to alter that in any way, just let me know, and we'll alter, okay? So we have other students, like you may have noticed, we have 8 students in this class. We've actually only ever seen 3 of them. So I will send them an email notice and suggest that they're here at that time or to give me another time. Now, the other thing, once again, make sure that if you have a classmate who is not there on Tuesday, if they're going to take their exam on Thursday, if they have any sense whatsoever, they're going to ask you what was on the exam. And I would refrain from telling them except to say, do the review problems, and they'll be very helpful. So, all right? So what specific questions do you guys have for me?
Are like unit converters going to be available on the exam, or is it?
Yes.
Okay.
You won't have to memorize anything like that, as long as you can use them. You know,
It's got really
right.
confusing once I got to thermodynamics.
Yeah.
Well, right, and you know, this is an interesting, it's good to have a moment to talk about this. Thermo, it's really difficult, and it's not just, I mean, it's always difficult to go back and forth between SI and US customary, but in thermo, everything's tough. And the other thing that's really interesting is when you get into fluid dynamics, which if you guys, I will be offering that over the summer via the internet. So if you're in, and you don't have to buy a book. So if you want to do it over the summer, it'll be available to you. But when you do fluids, it will actually ramp up to even another level of unit issues.
Oh
I know, it's like, how could it be? But there's actually a field of study or an analysis method that's called dimensional analysis that you can actually predict behaviors based on units and dimensions. So that's how important it is. So I know it's like, you said you're a stickler for like, you know, the decimal points. That's why, because of my background, my degrees are in petroleum engineering, which is all units.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did my master's thesis on something called fluid rheology, which is basically a fluid physics type of a question. And units just take on this incredible, not only like you have to sort it out to get the right answer, but if you sort it out properly, you can actually get an insight into what the right answer is going to look like. So it's a big deal. So now, and you're going to chemical engineering, so it's going to be a big deal for you. And what area are you going into?
Mechanical.
So it's going to be a big deal for you, yeah. So big deal everywhere. So yeah, and so probably depending on what sort of a job you take, Gareth, yours may be more on a theoretical level, but mechanical engineers, you know, they still use like they call them boiler tables. I mean, where you measure pressure in inches of water or feet of air. So yeah, so I mean, and there are definitely conversions, but it's like you have to recognize that, and it goes back to, like I said, it goes back to reading the gauges on a boiler, where pressure was actually they measured it in feet of air or inches of water because that's what the gauge did, is it moved water to a particular level. So it's like manometry taken to an incredible level. So anyway, isn't that fun? You guys are great. You guys are going to be super. You guys will love it. But anyway, we'll get you ready so that you'll be all squared away and it will be no mystery to you. So that's what we're aiming at. All right. So Tuesday then it is. Do you have any specific questions about the homework or anything? Okay. Well, you guys have been really super, and I mean that genuinely. I mean, I know I tease you a little bit, but I mean, really, in terms of your work ethic and your ability to do this largely on your own, I have been greatly impressed with both of your abilities and intelligence. So, bravo. Good job. So, yeah, so keep up the good work. And if you have any questions, I may be gone Friday and Monday. I'm not sure, but I'm always available through email. And I also just built a little Zoom room, so I'm going to start using that for conferencing and for office hours as well. But always email me, and if we need more time, we can figure that out, and I'll be here the other days. So, all right? And so I've got you down for Tuesday at 10, and if that time is not convenient, I will make it sacred, but if it's not convenient for you, feel free to let me know and we'll alter that, okay? All right, you guys have a great day, and we will see you Tuesday, or we'll see you Thursday, if you know, for more fun with thermo, but then we'll do the exam Tuesday, and anytime in between you need help. All right. Thanks, guys.